Rosy Hardy, Rosy Hardy Gardening. Thank you so much for listening to our videos and watching them. This is January's Q&A. This month we've had so many questions that we're going to split it into 2 videos. This is a question regarding Salvia hot lips. Salvia hot lips is a beautiful plant and basically wanting to know when they can cut it back. Well, now that we've got into the winter, now unfortunately this person doesn't say where they come from. So basically if you are in the winter and your plant is now defoliated and you haven't cut it back, then it is okay to trim it over the top and just make it into a tidy shape, but you shouldn't do anything more than that. And basically at this time of the year that I would leave it so that it's a reasonable shape, it's not going to get rocked by the wind. And then when we get to the spring and you can see signs of it starting to leaf up, so it may start to leaf up at the bottom or it may start to leaf up slightly further up on the plant, but basically what you're going to do, you're going to go from something that is bushy and reasonably well shaped like this, you're going to take it right down, and it's in the spring when you see that new sign of life at the base when you do it. Now spring can alter in all sorts of places, so just wait until you see the new signs of life and take it down, and then it will grow back and flower well for you for the rest of the year. Somebody has a little rosemary that they have put into their garden, and it was from a cutting the previous year. They put it in and it was unrooted in January. They think maybe rabbits. And then they replanted it, and a few days later all the shoots had been snapped off and it was just lying around on the thing, trying to ask me what it could be. Now, if it was in this country, I would say you've got quite a few different culprits that would do something like that. Firstly, yes, rabbits. Secondly, birds. Especially things like rooks or pigeons, and even game birds such as partridge and pheasants love going in and attacking little young shoots and everything else. So that is one suggestion. Otherwise, there are plenty of things like mice or voles or even rats who are happy to go and just find something and chew it about and then just leave it scattered. So those are all the options that it could be. I'm sorry to hear that. Maybe you'll be able to take another cutting and start something off, and perhaps you need to get the plant to be a little bit bigger and more established in a container before you put it out into the ground. This is from another person here, and they've got a young acacia, debalta, and they want to do some light pruning on it. It's approximately 12 feet, so it's quite, even though saying it's young, it's still got to quite a size, and it's coming into flower at the moment. Well, basically asking whether to prune after flowering, and that is sort of the first rule. If you're thinking of pruning a shrub, prune it after flowering. That is much, much better for it. You won't cause it to go into shock or anything like that. So always good to prune after flowering. Remove, the first thing to look for are dead or damaged stems. They're the first things to take out whenever you do any pruning. So dead and damaged first, and then it is shaping to the size that you want. So shaping can be uplifting the crown, so therefore clearing the stem, or it can just be making it into a tidier shape all around the top to what is something that you like, but just do it gently on an acacia. This next person is wanting to ask about euonymus. They've got emerald and gold, which is a lovely one, but something is eating the foliage and it looks very tired all the time. So he's asking what it could be. So it's quite difficult to just go from eating the leaves, because I need to know whether the leaves are notched or whether the leaves are eaten in the middle. That then helps you determine roughly what is causing it. A lot of the euonymus will get attacked by caterpillars, so that is your first thing. The person saying they can't see anything on there, So that almost makes me think it's a weevil of some sort. It might not be vine weevil, but it could be other weevils, which means that they are coming out and eating the plant at night time, and then during the day they've gone back underneath leaf cover or gone somewhere else through the daytime, and then they come back out at night. So it's more likely to be something that is beetle or weevil that is causing this problem. Right, somebody has got a large amount of allium purple sensation in a bed, about 100 of them, which must look absolutely stunning, by the way, and wants to know what they can do to fill under the area once the alliums have finished. Well, I can tell you straight away, echinacea look fantastic en masse, and they go really, really well with alliums. Or a hardy geranium, something like Rosanne, or a pink one, say a sanguinium type, anything like that which will cover the ground will be perfectly good with the alliums. Then if you don't want it to be there all the time, you could put in some annual bedding, something like cosmos for instance, which would give you a riot of colour. So those are varying suggestions that I have for that. Next question is, how do I keep my penstemons and make them survive? Again, unfortunately, this person, and this is survive over the winter, sorry. Again, this person hasn't actually asked me or told me where they are. So I can just go by how I suggest you keep penstemon. And that is, one thing is to make sure that penstemon that you have been put in for all season. They're not late planted, because that can be one reason why they don't survive the winter. Secondly, follow the pruning regime for penstemon. So when they have finished flowering in the autumn, cut off the old dead heads, leave the rest of the foliage and the rest of the plant there until the spring. And then in the spring, when you see lovely new growth coming at the base, you cut right back down to that. You don't leave the old material, you cut back to the new material there. But always make sure, if you're wanting a plant to last, it is not a newly autumn planted penstemon. They don't survive through very well. You need to make sure that they are planted in the spring. They grow and flower all the way through the year. You are then following the correct regime of cutting back to just the growth, taking off all the dead heads down to the bottom. Oh, also, I would say with penstemon, make sure that they are not in ground that is going to stay waterlogged all through the winter. That is another way of keeping them, because if they're in waterlogged ground, they will not like it. Someone here who is asking about catmint, that is Nepeta, and wanting to know whether they stay green through the winter because hydrangeas die back. If you have cut back your Nepeta in the autumn and it has given you a regrowth of beautiful grey-green foliage, then that remains virtually green or evergreen right the way through. It will, if we have very hard winters, say December, January, and you get a lot of frost or you get a bit of snow, then it can get cut back then. But basically you will have foliage on it through September, October, November, into December, and maybe into January. But once you get into that sort of February, March time, no, the foliage will have died back. It is not a totally evergreen plant. Thank you very much for watching, and please do subscribe to the channel.